Caleb Turner heard the laugh before he saw her face, a sound so casual, so thoughtless, it shattered something inside him he'd spent years protecting. She stood there in her expensive coat, judging his rusted motorcycle with a smirk, completely unaware that his 11-year-old son had heard every word and would go home that night asking if their family was embarrassing. What that privileged woman didn't know was that her careless cruelty had set something in motion. Because when Caleb's bike broke down the very next day, leaving him stranded and desperate, she would come crawling back with an apology that couldn't undo the damage. But Caleb Turner wasn't the kind of man who broke easily, and what happened next would force her to confront every shallow judgment she'd ever made, teach his children what real dignity looked like, and prove that sometimes the quietest strength speaks the loudest. If you're watching this, hit subscribe and tell me where you're watching from, because this story will show you what it really means to hold your head high when the world tries to bring you down. The motorcycle sputtered and coughed like an old man with bad lungs. Caleb Turner twisted the throttle gently, coaxing the engine to keep going just a little bit longer. The bike was 20 years old, older than his son, Isaiah. The paint had faded from black to a dull gray. Rust spotted the exhaust pipe. The seat was patched with duct tape. But it ran. Most days, it ran. That was enough. Caleb pulled up outside the community after-school center, just as the sun started dipping low. Golden light stretched across the parking lot, making everything look softer than it really was. He cut the engine, and the sudden silence felt heavy. Around him, other parents arrived in cars, some new, some old, but all of them cars. SUVs with tinted windows, sedans with working air conditioning. Even the beat-up Honda Civic next to him looked like a luxury compared to his motorcycle. Caleb pulled off his helmet and ran a hand over his face. 36 years old, and he felt twice that. His delivery shift had started at midnight and ended at 2 in the afternoon. 7 hours of riding through the city, dropping off packages, dodging traffic. His back ached, his shoulders were stiff, but he was here, on time, like always. The doors to the center opened and kids started pouring out. Caleb spotted Maya first, impossible to miss with her bright pink backpack and the way she bounced when she walked. She was 7 years old and still believed the world was mostly good. Caleb wanted to keep it that way as long as possible. Isaiah came out behind her, walking slower. 11 years old, tall for his age, with Caleb's dark eyes and serious expression. He carried his backpack on one shoulder and his head down, like he was trying not to be noticed. Caleb waved. Maya saw him immediately, and her whole face lit up. "Daddy!" She ran over and threw her arms around his waist. Caleb caught her, lifting her off the ground for just a second before setting her back down. "Hey, baby girl, good day?" "So good. We made volcanoes in science, and mine exploded the biggest." "That's my girl." Isaiah walked up more slowly. He didn't say anything, just nodded at Caleb. "You okay, son?" "Yeah, fine." But he wasn't fine. Caleb could see it in the way Isaiah's jaw was tight, in the way he wouldn't quite meet Caleb's eyes. Something had happened today. Caleb made a mental note to ask about it later, when Maya wasn't around. "All right, let's get you two home. Homework time." Maya groaned dramatically but climbed onto the back of the motorcycle, settling into her spot behind Caleb. Isaiah hesitated. That's when Caleb heard it. Laughter. Not loud, but clear. A woman's laugh, light and dismissive, like she'd just heard a good joke. Caleb turned his head and saw two women standing near a black luxury sedan. One of them was on her phone. The other, tall, brown-skinned, wearing an expensive-looking coat, was looking right at Caleb's motorcycle. She said something to her friend, and they both laughed again. The sound hit Caleb square in the chest, not angry, not mean, just amused, like his bike was the funniest thing she'd seen all day. Isaiah heard it too. Caleb saw his son's face change, saw the embarrassment flash across his features before he looked down at his shoes. Caleb's hands tightened on the handlebars. He wanted to say something, wanted to walk over there and ask what was so damn funny. But he didn't. He never did. Because what would that prove? That he was angry? That their laughter mattered to him? Instead, Caleb helped Isaiah onto the bike behind Maya. He put his helmet back on, started the engine, which coughed and sputtered even more this time, like it knew it was being judged. And then he rode away without looking back, but he felt that laugh the whole way home. The evening air was cool as they rode through the neighborhood. Caleb took the side streets, avoiding the main roads where traffic moved fast and impatient. The motorcycle's engine rattled beneath them, and Caleb felt every bump in the road through the worn-out suspension. Maya chattered the whole way, her voice muffled by the wind but still bright. She talked about her volcano and her friend Emma and the guinea pig in their classroom that smelled funny. Caleb let her words wash over him, grateful for the noise. Isaiah said nothing. His hands gripped Caleb's jacket a little tighter than usual. Caleb could feel the tension in his son's body, the way he held himself stiff and separate. They pulled up outside their apartment building just as the streetlights flickered on. The building was old. 6 stories of faded brick with narrow windows and a front door that didn't lock properly. But it was home. Rent was cheap enough that Caleb could almost always pay it on time. The neighbors were decent, and it was theirs. Caleb parked the bike and helped the kids off. He locked it up carefully, wrapping the chain twice around the frame and through the front wheel. Someone had tried to steal it once, 2 years ago. They'd gotten halfway through cutting the chain before Mr. Holloway from the garage down the street had chased them off. Caleb had bought a thicker chain after that. "Inside," Caleb said. "Wash your hands. I'll start dinner." They climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor. The hallway smelled like someone's cooking, something spicy and good that made Caleb's stomach growl. He unlocked their apartment door and the kids filed inside. The apartment was small. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen barely big enough for 3 people to stand in. The living room furniture was all second-hand, a couch with a sagging cushion, a coffee table with a wobbly leg, a TV Caleb had bought at a yard sale 3 years ago. But it was clean. Caleb made sure of that. He might not have much, but what he had was taken care of. Maya kicked off her shoes and ran to the bathroom. Isaiah dropped his backpack by the door and stood there for a moment, still not looking at Caleb. "Isaiah?" His son looked up. "You gonna tell me what's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Come on, son." "I know you better than that." Isaiah's jaw worked. He looked like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Finally, he just shook his head. "I have homework." He walked to the room he shared with Maya and closed the door. Not a slam. Just a quiet, firm closing that somehow felt worse. Caleb stood in the kitchen and stared at that closed door. His chest felt tight. He knew what was bothering Isaiah. He'd heard that laugh too. And he'd seen the way Isaiah's shoulders had hunched, the way his son had suddenly looked smaller. Caleb opened the fridge and pulled out what he had. Some chicken breast, half an onion, a bag of rice. Not much, but enough. He'd learned to make enough out of not much a long time ago. He cooked in silence, moving through the familiar motions. Cut the chicken, dice the onion, heat the oil, the kitchen filled with the smell of seasoning and frying meat. Maya came out and set the table without being asked. She was good like that, always helping, always trying to make things easier. When dinner was ready, Caleb called Isaiah. His son came out slowly and sat down at the table. They ate together. The 3 of them crowded around the small kitchen table. Maya talked about her day again, repeating stories she'd already told. Isaiah pushed his rice around his plate. Halfway through the meal, Maya looked up at Caleb with those big, curious eyes. "Daddy, why was that lady laughing?" The question landed in the middle of the table like a stone. Caleb's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. Isaiah went very still. "What lady, baby?" "The lady at the school. She was laughing when she looked at our motorcycle. Caleb set his fork down carefully. Some people laugh at things they don't understand. But why? How did he explain this? How did he tell his 7-year-old daughter that some people judged you by what you had instead of who you were, that a laugh could carry more cruelty than any words? Because the bike is old, Isaiah said quietly. His voice was flat. Because it's embarrassing. Isaiah. It's true, Dad. Everyone at school has parents with cars, nice cars, and we have that. Caleb felt something twist in his chest. He looked at his son and saw shame there, real deep shame, and it broke his heart. That bike, Caleb said slowly, is what gets me to work every single day. It's what brings me to pick you up. It's what keeps food on this table. But it's old. It's falling apart. So am I some days. Does that make me embarrassing? Isaiah looked up, his eyes suddenly bright with tears he was trying to hold back. No. That bike is more than what it looks like. It's survival. It's me showing up for you two no matter what. Caleb reached across the table and took Isaiah's hand. I'm not ashamed of it, and you don't have to be either. But people laugh. Let them laugh. Their opinion doesn't pay our rent, doesn't feed us, doesn't matter. Isaiah pulled his hand away and stood up. I'm done eating. He left the table and went back to his room. This time the door did close a little harder. Maya looked at Caleb with worried eyes. Is Isaiah mad? He's hurt, baby girl. That's different. Because of the lady? Yeah, because of the lady. That's mean. Yeah, it is. They finished dinner in quiet. Caleb washed the dishes while Maya did her homework at the table. Later, he tucked her into bed, reading her a story about a princess who saved herself. Maya fell asleep before the ending, her face peaceful in the glow of the nightlight. Isaiah was still awake when Caleb checked on him. His son lay on his back, staring at the ceiling. Get some sleep, Isaiah. Dad? Yeah? Do you ever wish things were different? That we had more? Caleb sat down on the edge of the bed. Every single day. Then why don't we? Because life doesn't work that way, son. I do the best I can. I work hard. I make sure you and Maya are safe and fed and loved. But sometimes that's not enough for a new car or a bigger apartment. Sometimes all I can do is keep that motorcycle running and show up for you. Isaiah was quiet for a moment. Then, so softly, Caleb almost didn't hear it. I wish they hadn't laughed. Me too, son, me too. Caleb stayed until Isaiah's breathing evened out into sleep. Then he went to his own room, barely bigger than a closet, just enough space for a bed and a dresser. He lay down fully clothed and stared at his own ceiling. That laugh echoed in his head, and underneath it, Isaiah's question. Is it embarrassing? Caleb had thought he'd made peace with what he had and what he didn't have, but tonight, that peace felt fragile, because it wasn't just about him anymore. It was about what his kids saw when they looked at their life, what they felt when other people looked at them, and Caleb didn't know how to fix that. Across the city, in a hotel room that cost more per night than Caleb made in a week, Natalie Brooks stood by the window and stared out at the lights. She'd been in town for 3 days on a consulting project. The work was easy. Help a local company streamline their operations, make some recommendations, collect her fee. She'd done it 100 times before. She should have been asleep by now. But instead, she kept thinking about that man at the school. Natalie's friend Lena was sprawled across the hotel bed, scrolling through her phone. That motorcycle, Lena said, laughing. Did you see the duct tape on the seat? Natalie had seen it, had seen the rust and the faded paint, and the way the engine coughed like it was dying. It was pretty rough, Natalie said. I can't believe people still ride those things, like just get a car, even a cheap one. Natalie didn't respond. She was thinking about the man's face. He'd looked right at her, just for a second, and she'd seen something in his eyes. Not anger, not even hurt, just Awareness. Like he knew exactly what she was thinking and had decided she wasn't worth his energy. And somehow that made her feel worse than if he'd yelled. "You still thinking about that?" Lena asked. "No, just tired." "Well, I'm exhausted. Long day tomorrow." Lena got up and stretched. "See you at breakfast?" "Yeah, see you." Lena left. Natalie stayed by the window, her phone in her hand. She opened Instagram and scrolled mindlessly through photos of other people's perfect lives, vacations, fancy dinners, new cars. She thought about that man again. About his kids, the little girl who'd looked so happy and the boy who'd looked so serious. About the way they'd climbed onto that falling-apart motorcycle without complaint. Natalie had grown up with money, not rich, but comfortable. She'd never wondered if her parents could afford to pick her up from school or put food on the table. She'd gone to good schools, gotten a good degree, built a good career. And somewhere along the way, she'd started measuring people by what they had instead of who they were. Natalie set her phone down and rubbed her eyes. She felt unsettled, off balance, like something about that brief moment had shifted something inside her that she couldn't quite name. She got ready for bed, but sleep didn't come easy. And when it did, she dreamed of laughter that sounded cruel, even though it hadn't meant to be. Morning came too early for Caleb. His alarm went off at 4:30 a.m., dragging him from a sleep that hadn't been restful. He rolled out of bed, his back protesting every movement. 36 felt like 60 some mornings. He moved quietly through the apartment, not wanting to wake the kids. In the kitchen, he made coffee. Instant, because that's what he could afford, and stood by the window while it cooled. The street below was empty, except for a stray cat picking through a knocked-over trash can. Caleb thought about Isaiah's face last night. The shame, the hurt, the question that had cut deeper than any laugh. Is it embarrassing? He finished his coffee and started breakfast. Oatmeal for the kids, cheap, filling, and Maya would eat it if he added enough brown sugar. He set out 2 bowls, left a note on the counter. "Love you both. Have a good day. Dad." Then he grabbed his jacket, his helmet, and headed downstairs. The motorcycle sat where he'd left it, chain still wrapped tight. Caleb unlocked it and ran his hand over the seat. The duct tape was peeling at one corner. He'd have to fix that soon. Add it to the list of things that needed fixing but would have to wait. He started the engine. It coughed once, twice, then caught, settling into that familiar rattling idle. Caleb listened carefully, the way Mr. Holloway had taught him. The engine sounded okay. Not great, but okay. Good enough. He rode through the dark streets toward the distribution center where he picked up his deliveries. The city was just waking up, a few early buses, some garbage trucks, people heading to jobs that started before the sun rose. Caleb knew these streets by heart. Every pothole, every shortcut, every place where cops like to sit and watch for speeders. At the distribution center, he loaded his bike with packages. Not as many as the guys with trucks could carry, but enough. His supervisor, a tired woman named Carmen, handed him his route sheet. "Light day today, Turner." "Thanks, Carmen. That bike's still running?" "So far." She shook her head. "You need to get yourself a van. Would make this job so much easier." Caleb just smiled. A van. Sure. Right after he figured out how to pay for Isaiah's school field trip next month and Maya's winter coat that was getting too small. He rode out as the sun started to paint the sky orange and pink. Beautiful morning. Cold, but beautiful. The deliveries went smoothly until around 10:30. Caleb was downtown, dropping off a package at an office building when he felt it. A slight hesitation in the engine. A miss in the rhythm. He paused, one hand on the throttle, listening. It smoothed out. He kept going. By 11, he'd finished half his route. He stopped at a coffee shop near a small auto garage to grab something to eat. His usual, a plain bagel and water. cheap enough that he didn't feel guilty. He was sitting on a bench outside, eating and checking his route sheet, when he heard a familiar voice. "Well, what do you know?" Caleb looked up. The woman from yesterday, the one who'd laughed, was walking out of the coffee shop, cup in hand. She stopped when she saw him, recognition flashing across her face. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Caleb swallowed his bite of bagel and waited. "Hi," she said finally. Her voice was different than he'd expected. Softer, almost uncertain. "Hi. You work around here?" Caleb gestured to the motorcycle loaded with packages. "Deliveries." "Oh." She looked at the bike and something shifted in her expression. Not amusement this time. Something else. That's good work." Caleb didn't respond. What was there to say? The woman, Natalie, though he didn't know her name yet, shifted her weight. She looked uncomfortable. Good. She should be. "Look, She stopped, started again. "Yesterday, at the school. I think you might have heard me and my friend. We were—" She paused, struggling. "It wasn't very nice." "No," Caleb said quietly. "It wasn't." "I'm sorry." 2 words. Simple. But Caleb could see the effort it took her to say them. Could see that she meant it, even if she didn't fully understand why it had hurt. "Okay," he said. "Is that your bike? I mean, obviously it is. I just meant, do you use it for work?" "For everything. Work, picking up my kids, groceries, everything." Natalie nodded slowly. "That must be difficult sometimes." "Sometimes. But it works." "Right, of course." She looked like she wanted to say more but didn't know how. "Well, I should get going, but I am sorry, really." She walked to her car, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than Caleb made in 2 years. She paused before getting in, looked back at him once, then drove away. Caleb sat there for a moment, his bagel forgotten. The apology hadn't fixed anything, hadn't changed what Isaiah had heard or how it had made him feel. But at least she'd said it. That was something. He finished eating and got back on the bike. 3 more stops before lunch, 4 more after that. Then home to the kids. The engine caught on the first try. Caleb twisted the throttle and pulled back onto the street. That's when it happened. 2 blocks from the garage, the engine stuttered, coughed, died completely. Caleb coasted to the curb, his heart sinking. He tried to restart it. The engine turned over but wouldn't catch. He tried again. Nothing. "No, no, no," he muttered. "Come on, not now." But the motorcycle was done. Whatever had been wrong this morning had finally given out. Caleb sat there for a moment, hands on the handlebars, staring at nothing. Then he got off, grabbed the handlebars and started pushing. Mr. Holloway's garage was only 2 blocks away. Caleb pushed the bike slowly, stopping every half block to catch his breath. The seat was hot from the sun. His shoulders burned. People passed him on the sidewalk, some looking, most not. Just another guy with a broken-down bike. By the time he reached the garage, sweat was running down his back despite the cool air. "Caleb!" Mr. Holloway looked up from under the hood of a sedan. He was a big man, 50-something, with grease permanently stained into his hands. "What happened?" "Engine died, won't restart." "Bring her in." Caleb pushed the bike into the garage. The smell of oil and metal was familiar, almost comforting. "Mr. Holloway wiped his hands on a rag and came over. "Let me take a look." He spent 10 minutes checking the engine, making small sounds, some thoughtful, some concerned. Finally, he straightened up. "Bad news, Caleb. Your carburetor's shot, and I think your timing chain's about to go too." Caleb felt his stomach drop. "How bad?" "Parts and labor? Probably $300. Maybe more. $300. Caleb had $67 in his checking account. Payday wasn't until Friday, and that would barely cover rent. "Can you fix it?" Caleb asked quietly. "I can. But not for free, brother. I wish I could." "I know. I know." Caleb ran a hand over his face. "How long?" "To get the parts. Few days. Then another day or two to install them. So I'm looking at a week without the bike." "Maybe. I'll try to rush it." A week without the bike meant a week without work, a week without income, a week of trying to figure out how to get the kids to school and himself to the distribution center, and how to explain to Carmen that he couldn't make his deliveries. "Do what you can," Caleb said. "I'll figure out the money somehow." Mr. Holloway's expression softened. "You're a good man, Caleb. You'll get through this." "I always do." But as Caleb walked away from the garage, leaving his motorcycle behind, he didn't feel like a good man. He felt like a man who was one more bad breakaway from falling completely apart. He pulled out his phone and called Carmen. She didn't pick up. He left a message. "Carmen, it's Turner. My bike broke down. Gonna be out for a few days while it gets fixed. I'm sorry." Then he started the long walk home. It took 40 minutes. By the time Caleb reached his apartment building, his feet ached and his pride felt bruised. He climbed the stairs slowly, each step feeling heavier than the last. Inside the apartment, it was too quiet. The kids wouldn't be home for another 2 hours. Caleb dropped onto the couch and stared at the ceiling. $300. It might as well have been 3,000. He pulled out his phone and looked at his bank account. $67. Rent was due in 8 days, $950. He had a check coming Friday for last week's work, but it wouldn't be enough, not with the bike repair on top of everything else. Caleb closed his eyes, tried to think, tried to plan. But all he could see was Isaiah's face last night. All he could hear was that woman's laugh. And now he couldn't even ride that embarrassing motorcycle. Now he had nothing. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Hi, this is Natalie, the woman from this morning. I got your number from the delivery app. I hope that's okay. I wanted to check if you made it to your other deliveries all right." Caleb stared at the text. Part of him wanted to ignore it, delete it, pretend she didn't exist. But another part, the part that was tired and scared and running out of options, typed back, "Bike broke down, getting it fixed." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "I'm sorry to hear that. Is there anything I can do to help?" Caleb's jaw tightened. Help. From the woman who'd laughed at him yesterday, the woman who'd made his son feel ashamed. He typed, "No, but thanks." 3 dots again. Then, "Are you sure? I feel terrible about yesterday. Let me at least—" Caleb stopped reading. He put his phone face down on the coffee table and closed his eyes. He didn't need her pity. Didn't need her guilt. What he needed was $300 and a time machine to go back and maintain his bike better so this wouldn't have happened. But he didn't have either of those things. The sound of the apartment door opening made Caleb sit up. Isaiah came in first, Maya right behind him. They were early. Someone must have given them a ride. "Dad?" Isaiah looked around. "Where's the bike?" Caleb forced a smile. "At Mr. Holloway's. Just getting some work done." "What kind of work?" "Just maintenance. Nothing big." But Isaiah was 11, not stupid. He looked at his father's face and knew something was wrong. "Dad!" "It's fine, son. Really." Caleb stood up. "How was school?" Maya dropped her backpack and ran over to hug him. "We learned about butterflies today. Did you know they taste with their feet?" "I didn't know that, baby girl." "It's true. Mrs. Patterson showed us a video." She launched into a long explanation of butterfly life cycles. Caleb listened, grateful for the distraction. But he could feel Isaiah watching him, could feel his son's worry like a weight in the room. That evening, they ate leftover rice and chicken. Caleb barely tasted it. His mind was spinning through possibilities. Could he borrow money from his brother? No. James was struggling too, had 3 kids of his own. Could he take an advance on his paycheck? Carmen had let him do that once before, but he'd sworn he wouldn't ask again. Could he accept help from a stranger who'd laughed at him? No. Absolutely not. After dinner, Caleb helped with homework, gave baths, read stories, the normal routine. But underneath it all was a current of panic that wouldn't go away. When the kids were finally in bed, Caleb sat in the dark living room and picked up his phone. Natalie had texted again. "I know you said no, but I meant what I said about wanting to help. If you change your mind, I'm here." Caleb stared at those words. Part of him, the proud part, wanted to throw the phone across the room. The other part, the desperate part, wondered what help would actually look like. He didn't respond, just set the phone down and went to bed. But he didn't sleep. He lay awake, counting dollars he didn't have, trying to figure out how to keep his family afloat when the one thing holding them together was sitting broken in a garage he couldn't afford to pay. Across town, Natalie sat in her hotel room with her laptop open and her mind elsewhere. She'd tried to work but couldn't focus. That man's face kept appearing in her mind. The way he'd looked at her this morning, not angry, just resigned, like he'd expected her to laugh, expected to be judged. And then his bike had broken down. Natalie had watched it happen, had been sitting in her car, about to leave, when she'd seen him pushing that motorcycle down the street. She'd almost gotten out, almost offered him a ride. But something in his posture, the rigid set of his shoulders, the determined way he kept walking, had told her he wouldn't accept it. So she'd just watched, and felt like the worst kind of person. Lena called around 9. "Hey, want to grab drinks?" "Not tonight, I'm tired." "You okay? You've been weird since yesterday." "I'm fine." "Is this about that motorcycle guy?" Natalie hesitated. "His name is Caleb." "How do you know that?" "I looked him up. On the delivery app." I wanted to apologize properly. Lena was quiet for a moment. "Nat, it was just a laugh. You're overthinking this." "Am I?" "Because he has kids, Lena. Kids who probably hurt us. And now his bike is broken and he can't work. That's not your fault, isn't it? I made him feel small, made his kids feel ashamed. And for what? Because his bike is old. You didn't mean anything by it. Does that matter?" Lena sighed. "What do you want to do? Give him money? That's just going to make him feel worse." "I know, but I can't just do nothing. Sometimes nothing is the right thing. Let him handle his own problems." They talked for a few more minutes, but Natalie's heart wasn't in it. After they hung up, she pulled up Caleb's profile on the delivery app. There was a photo, him in his work uniform, serious expression, no smile. The bio was simple. Reliable delivery service. On time, every time. Reliable, on time, every time. Even with a motorcycle held together with duct tape and hope. Natalie closed her laptop and lay back on the hotel bed. Tomorrow she'd go back to the garage, see if she could help without making things worse. But deep down, she suspected it was already too late for that. The next morning, Caleb woke up with a plan. Not a good plan, but a plan. He'd walk the kids to school, then walk to the distribution center and explain the situation to Carmen in person. Maybe she'd let him do warehouse work until the bike was fixed. It wouldn't pay as much, but it was something. He got the kids ready, made breakfast, and they headed out together. Isaiah asked about the bike again. Caleb gave the same answer, just getting some work done. The lie tasted bitter. The walk to school took 25 minutes instead of the usual 5-minute ride. Maya complained halfway through that her legs were tired. Caleb carried her on his shoulders the rest of the way, his back screaming in protest. At the school entrance, he set Maya down and crouched to her level. "Have a good day, baby girl." "You too, Daddy." She kissed his cheek and ran inside. Isaiah lingered. "Dad, how are we getting home?" "I'll figure it out, don't worry." "But, Isaiah." Caleb put a hand on his son's shoulder. "I've got this, okay?" Isaiah didn't look convinced, but he nodded and headed inside. Caleb watched him go, then started the long walk downtown. He was 2 blocks away when a car pulled up beside him. A black sedan. The window rolled down and Natalie looked out. "Need a ride?" Caleb kept walking. "No thanks. Come on, I'm going downtown anyway." "I'm fine." The car kept pace with him, moving slowly. "Caleb, please. Let me help." He stopped walking and looked at her. Really looked. She wasn't laughing now, wasn't smirking. She looked genuinely concerned, maybe even guilty, but accepting help from her felt wrong, like admitting defeat. "Why?" he asked. "Why what?" "Why do you care? Yesterday you were laughing at my bike. Today you want to help me. Which one is real?" Natalie flinched. "Both. I laughed because I'm an idiot who judges things before I understand them, and I want to help because I feel terrible about it. Guilt isn't a good reason to help someone. Maybe not, but it's the reason I have." They stared at each other. Caleb's feet hurt, his back hurt, and he had a 3-mile walk ahead of him. "Fine," he said, "but just to the distribution center. Then we're even." "We're not even, but okay." He got in the car. The interior smelled new, like leather and expensive air freshener. The seat was heated. Caleb hadn't realized how cold he was until he sat down. Natalie drove in silence for a few blocks. Then she said, "I really am sorry about yesterday." "You already said that." "I know, but I don't think I really understood why until I saw you pushing your bike. That's your livelihood, isn't it? Your whole life depends on that motorcycle." "Pretty much." And I laughed at it. Caleb didn't respond. What could he say? "Yeah, you did. And it hurt. And my son heard you, and now he's ashamed of our life." "How much are the repairs?" Natalie asked. "Why?" "Just curious." 300. Plus whatever parts cost if Mr. Holloway has to order something special. Natalie was quiet. Caleb could practically hear her doing math in her head, calculating how little that money meant to her and how much it meant to him. "I could—" "No. You don't know what I was going to say. You were going to offer money, and I'm saying no." "Why? Pride?" "Yeah. Pride. I have that, even if I don't have much else." They pulled up outside the distribution center. Caleb reached for the door handle. "Wait," Natalie said. "Can I ask you something?" "What?" "Your kids. Are they okay after yesterday?" Caleb's hand tightened on the door handle. "My son asked if our bike was embarrassing. My daughter wanted to know why you were laughing. So no. They're not okay." Natalie's face went pale. "I'm so sorry." "Stop apologizing and do better." Caleb opened the door. "Thanks for the ride." He got out and walked into the building without looking back. Carmen was in her office, sorting through paperwork. She looked up when Caleb knocked. "Turner, got your message. What's going on?" "My bike broke down. Needs about a week of repairs. I was hoping I could do warehouse work until it's fixed." Carmen leaned back in her chair and sighed. "Caleb, you know I love you. You're one of my most reliable guys. But warehouse is full right now. Budget cuts. I don't have room for another body." Caleb's stomach sank. "Carmen, please, I need the hours." "I know, and I wish I could help. But my hands are tied." She paused. "Tell you what. Get your bike fixed and your route is waiting. I'll even give you some of the premium deliveries, the ones that tip good. That doesn't help me now. I know, I'm sorry." Caleb left the office feeling hollow. No work meant no money. No money meant no repairs. No repairs meant no work. A perfect, vicious circle. He walked back outside and stood in the parking lot, trying to figure out his next move. His phone buzzed. A text from the school. "Mr. Turner, this is Mrs. Patterson. I wanted to let you know that Isaiah seemed upset today in class. Is everything okay at home?" Caleb closed his eyes. Everything was not okay. But what was he supposed to say? That he couldn't afford to fix his bike? That his son was ashamed of their life? That he was failing as a father? He typed back, "Thank you for letting me know. I'll talk to him." Another text came through, this one from an unknown number. "Hi, Mr. Turner. This is Lena, Natalie's friend. We met yesterday at the school. I just want to say that I'm sorry, too, for laughing. It was thoughtless. I hope things get better for you." Caleb stared at the message. 2 apologies in 2 days. Neither one changed anything. He started walking home. It took an hour and a half. By the time he got there, his feet had blisters and his pride was in tatters. The apartment felt too quiet. Caleb made himself lunch, a peanut butter sandwich, and sat at the kitchen table. He needed a new plan. Maybe he could sell something. But what? The TV. Nobody wanted a 10-year-old TV. The couch? Who bought used furniture? His phone rang. Mr. Holloway. "Caleb, got some news. Good and bad. Give me the good first. I can get the parts by tomorrow. Rush order. And the bad? It's gonna cost more than I thought, $400 total. $400. Caleb felt like he'd been punched. Can you do it for $350? Caleb, please. Holloway. I'm begging. A long silence. Then, $375. That's as low as I can go and still cover my costs. Done, thank you. When can you pay? I'll have it by the end of the week. Another lie. But what else could he say? After they hung up, Caleb sat there trying to figure out where he could possibly find $375 in less than a week. His paycheck on Friday would be $200, maybe $220 if he was lucky. That left over $150 short. His phone buzzed again. Natalie. "I know you said no, but I talked to the mechanic, Mr. Holloway. He said he'd let me pay for the repairs. As an apology. Please don't be too proud to let me do this." Caleb's first instinct was to call her and tell her to back off, to mind her own business. But then he thought about Isaiah's face, about Maya asking why the lady was laughing, about the school calling because his son was upset. He typed, "You had no right to do that." 3 dots. Then, "I know, but I did it anyway. I can't accept it." "Why not?" "Because it's charity, and I don't need charity." "It's not charity, it's an apology." "Same thing." "No, it's not. Charity is when someone feels sorry for you. An apology is when someone recognizes they hurt you and wants to make it right." Caleb stared at those words. Part of him wanted to keep arguing, but another part, the tired, desperate part, wondered if maybe she was right. Maybe there was a difference. He didn't respond, just set the phone down and tried to think. That afternoon, he walked back to the school to pick up the kids. His feet screamed with every step, but he smiled when Maya ran out to meet him. "Daddy, we learned about Abraham Lincoln today." "That's great, baby." Isaiah came out more slowly. His eyes were red, like he'd been crying. "Isaiah." "I don't want to talk about it." They walked home together, Maya chattering the whole way, Isaiah silent. When they got to the apartment, Isaiah went straight to his room and closed the door. Caleb followed and knocked gently. "Son, we need to talk." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. Your teacher called me, said you were upset." Silence. Caleb opened the door. Isaiah was sitting on his bed, his backpack still on, staring at nothing. "What happened?" Caleb asked, sitting down next to him. "Nothing. Isaiah." His son's face crumpled. "Some kids were talking about their parents' cars, about how they're going on a trip this weekend and what kind of car they're taking, and Marcus asked what kind of car we have." Caleb's chest tightened. "What did you say?" "I said we don't have one, that we have a motorcycle." Isaiah's voice broke. "And they laughed, Dad. Just like that lady. They laughed and said motorcycles are for poor people." Caleb pulled his son close. Isaiah resisted for a second, then broke down completely, sobbing into Caleb's shoulder. "I hate being poor," Isaiah said between sobs. "I hate that we can't afford things. I hate that people laugh at us." Caleb held his son and felt his own eyes burn with tears. This was what he'd been afraid of. This exact moment. His kids learning that the world judged them not by who they were, but by what they had. "Listen to me," Caleb said, his voice rough. "Those kids don't know anything about us. They don't know how hard we work. They don't know that you're the smartest, kindest, bravest kid I've ever met. They just know we're different, and that scares them, so they laugh." "But it hurts." "I know it does, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." They sat there together, father and son, both crying now. After a while, Isaiah pulled back and wiped his eyes. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "That lady who laughed, is she the same one who texted you?" Caleb hesitated. "How do you know someone texted me?" "I saw your phone. Earlier. The message was on the screen." "Of course. Kids saw everything." "Yeah," Caleb admitted. "Same person." "She wants to help?" "She offered." "Are you going to let her?" Caleb looked at his son. "I don't know. Part of me wants to say no, but the other part knows we need help." Isaiah was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Mom used to say that asking for help isn't weakness, it's just being human." Caleb's throat closed up. Isaiah barely remembered his mother. She'd left when he was 7. But he remembered that. Of all the things to remember, he remembered that. "Your mom was right," Caleb said quietly. "So maybe you should let the lady help, even if it's hard." Caleb pulled his son close again. "When did you get so wise?" "I don't know. Maybe I've always been wise and you just noticed." Caleb smiled despite everything. "Maybe." That evening, after the kids were in bed, Caleb sat on the couch with his phone. Natalie's message was still there, unanswered. He typed, "I need to think about it." 3 dots appeared immediately. "Take all the time you need. The offer stands." Caleb set the phone down. Tomorrow he'd go see Mr. Holloway. Talk to him about what Natalie had offered. Figure out if accepting help was really as impossible as his pride wanted to believe. But tonight, he was just tired. Tired of struggling. Tired of worrying. Tired of watching his kids hurt because of things beyond his control. Tomorrow could wait. Tonight, he just needed to sleep. The next morning, Caleb walked to Mr. Holloway's garage. His feet still hurt from yesterday's walking. But he barely noticed. His mind was too busy turning over the same questions. Could he accept help from Natalie? What would it cost him beyond money? What would it teach his kids? The garage doors were open when he arrived. Mr. Holloway was bent over an engine, his hands black with grease. He looked up when Caleb's shadow fell across the floor. "Caleb, come to check on the bike?" "Yeah, and to talk." Mr. Holloway straightened up, wiping his hands on a rag that only made them dirtier. "About the woman who called? You talked to her?" "Yesterday afternoon. She wanted to pay for your repairs. I told her I needed to talk to you first." Mr. Holloway studied Caleb's face. "You look like a man wrestling with his pride." "That obvious?" "I've been there, brother. More times than I can count." He gestured to a couple of old chairs near the wall. "Sit. Let's talk." They sat. The garage smelled like oil and metal and hard work. Caleb felt more at home here than he had anywhere in the past 2 days. "She laughed at me," Caleb said finally. "At my bike. My kids heard it. My son asked if we were embarrassing." Mr. Holloway nodded slowly. "That's hard. Real hard. And now she wants to fix it by throwing money at the problem, like that makes everything okay." "Does she say that's what she's doing?" "No, she says it's an apology." "Then maybe that's what it is." Caleb looked at him. "You think I should take it?" "I think you should ask yourself what matters more, your pride or getting back to work." Your pride or being able to pick up your kids on time? Your pride or keeping food on the table? Mr. Holloway leaned forward. Pride is important, Caleb, but it don't feed your children. So I should just take her money? Let her feel better about herself while I feel worse about myself? You think that's what this is? What else could it be? Mr. Holloway was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I knew a man once. Good man, hard worker, had 3 kids and a wife who loved him. His car broke down and he couldn't afford to fix it. Lost his job, lost his apartment. Lost everything because he was too proud to ask for help when it was offered. That's different, is it? Or are you so focused on protecting your pride that you can't see when someone's genuinely trying to make things right? Caleb didn't have an answer for that. Look, Mr. Holloway continued, I don't know this woman. Don't know if she's doing this to feel better or because she actually understands what she did wrong. But I know you, and I know you're a good father. Good fathers do what's necessary for their kids, even when it's hard, even when it hurts. Caleb sat with those words. Thought about Isaiah crying yesterday, about Maya asking innocent questions that cut deep, about the way his son had said Mom used to say asking for help isn't weakness. If I do this, Caleb said slowly, I need it to be on my terms, not her throwing money at me, not charity. And tell her that. Make it a loan. Pay her back when you can. You think she'd agree to that? Only one way to find out. Caleb pulled out his phone and stared at it for a long moment. Then he typed, Can we meet? I want to talk about your offer, face to face. The response came within a minute. Yes. Where? The park on Maple Street, 2 o'clock. I'll be there. Caleb put his phone away and looked at Mr. Holloway. Thanks. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you're back on the road. The mechanic stood up. And Caleb, whatever you decide, make sure you can live with it. Not just today, but 6 months from now, a year from now. Make sure you can look your kids in the eye and know you did the right thing. I will. Caleb left the garage and walked to the park. He had 3 hours to figure out exactly what he wanted to say. At 2 o'clock, Caleb sat on a bench near the big oak tree and waited. The park was quiet, a few kids on the playground, an elderly couple walking their dog, a jogger passing by every few minutes. Natalie arrived right on time. She wore jeans and a simple jacket, nothing fancy. Her hair was pulled back and she looked nervous. Hi, she said. Hi, thanks for coming. Of course. She sat down on the other end of the bench, leaving space between them. You wanted to talk? Yeah. About your offer. Caleb took a breath. I need to explain something first. That motorcycle isn't just transportation. It's my livelihood, my dignity. It's how I show up for my kids every single day. When you laughed at it, you weren't just laughing at an old bike. You were laughing at everything I've worked for, everything I am. Natalie's face crumpled. I know. I didn't see it then, but I see it now, and I'm so sorry. I believe you, but sorry doesn't fix my bike. Sorry doesn't pay my bills. Sorry doesn't erase what my son heard. I know. That's why I want to help. Here's the thing. I can't just take your money. Can't accept charity from someone who made me feel small. My pride won't let me. But more than that, my kids are watching. They're learning from how I handle this. And I need them to learn that we don't let people walk on us, but we also don't let pride destroy us. Natalie nodded slowly. So, what do you want? A loan? Not a gift? I'll pay you back, every dollar. It might take a few months, but I'll do it. Caleb, you don't have to. Yes, I do. This is the only way I can accept your help and still respect myself in the morning. Natalie looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, Okay, a loan. No interest. Pay me back whenever you can. I'll pay you back by summer, I promise. I believe you. She pulled out her phone. What's Mr. Holloway's number? I'll call him right now. Caleb gave her the number. She called, spoke briefly, and hung up. Done. He'll have the parts by tomorrow morning. Should have your bike ready by tomorrow afternoon. Caleb felt something loosen in his chest. Relief. Pure, overwhelming relief. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You're welcome." Natalie paused. "Can I ask you something?" "What?" "Your kids. I know I hurt them. Is there any way I can? I don't know. Make that right?" Caleb thought about it. "Maybe, but not today. Let me talk to them first. See if they're ready for that." "Okay. Whatever you think is best." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Caleb said, "Why are you really doing this? Is it just guilt?" Natalie looked down at her hands. "At first? Yeah, it was guilt. But then I kept thinking about you. About how you didn't yell at me or make me feel terrible even though you had every right to. About how you just walked away with your dignity intact while I stood there feeling like garbage, and I realized something." "What?" "That I've been measuring people by the wrong things my whole life, by what they have instead of who they are. And you have so little, but you're so much more than I am. You're a better person, a better parent, a better everything." Her voice cracked. "So yeah, it started as guilt, but now it's respect. I want to help because you deserve help, and because maybe if I do this right, I can learn to be a little bit more like you." Caleb didn't know what to say to that, so he just nodded. They talked for another half hour, about parenting, about pride, about what it meant to do the right thing even when it was hard. By the time they stood up to leave, Caleb felt something shift. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding, and maybe that was enough. "I should get going," Natalie said. "I need to pick up my friend." "But Caleb?" "Thank you for giving me a chance to make this right. Thank you for not giving up when I said no the first time." She smiled. A real smile, not the polite one from before. Then she walked to her car and drove away. Caleb sat back down on the bench and called his kids. Isaiah answered. "Dad?" "Hey, son, you two okay?" "Yeah. Mrs. Chen from next door is watching us. She made cookies." "Good. Listen, I've got some good news. The bike's getting fixed. Should be ready tomorrow." "Really?" Isaiah's voice lifted. "That's great." "Yeah, it is. I'll tell you all about it when I get home. Love you." "Love you too, Dad." Caleb hung up and sat there for a moment longer, letting the sun warm his face. Tomorrow he'd have his bike back. Tomorrow he could work again. Tomorrow he could stop walking everywhere and start riding. Tomorrow he could be himself again. The next afternoon, Caleb stood in Mr. Holloway's garage and watched the mechanic make the final adjustments to the motorcycle. The engine purred. Not perfectly, but better than it had in months. Stronger, more reliable. "That should do it," Mr. Holloway said, straightening up. "New carburetor. New timing chain. Replaced a few other small things while I was in there. She'll run good now." "How much do I owe you?" Caleb asked. "The woman already paid." "I know, but how much? I need to know how much to pay her back." Mr. Holloway wiped his hands. $375, but Caleb, I gave her a discount because it's you. Normally would have been closer to 500. I appreciate that. You're good people. Good people deserve good deals. Mr. Holloway handed him the keys. "Take her for a spin. Make sure everything feels right." Caleb started the engine. It caught immediately, settling into a steady rhythm. No coughing, no sputtering. Just the smooth sound of an engine that had been properly cared for. He rode around the block twice, testing the acceleration, the brakes, the handling. Everything felt solid, strong, like the bike had been reborn. When he got back to the garage, he couldn't stop smiling. "It's perfect. Good. Now get out of here and go pick up those kids of yours. Show them their dad's back in business." Caleb rode to the school, arriving 10 minutes early. He parked near the entrance and waited. When the doors opened, he saw Isaiah first. His son spotted the motorcycle and his whole face changed. Surprise, then relief, then something close to pride. Maya came running out behind him. "Daddy, the bike is back." It is, baby girl, good as new. Isaiah walked over more slowly, running his hand along the seat. It sounds different. Better. Yeah, Mr. Holloway fixed everything. How? Caleb hesitated. Then he decided his kids deserved the truth. All of it. Remember the lady who laughed? She paid for it. As an apology. Isaiah's face went guarded. You took her money? As a loan. I'm paying her back. Every dollar. Why would she do that? Because she realized she was wrong. And sometimes when people realize they're wrong, they try to make it right. Isaiah thought about that. Is she a good person? I think she's trying to be. That's what matters. They climbed onto the bike, Maya behind Caleb, Isaiah behind Maya. Caleb started the engine and it roared to life, strong and sure. As they pulled out of the parking lot, Caleb saw Natalie's car parked nearby. She was sitting inside, watching. Their eyes met for a moment. She smiled. Not the amused smile from that first day. A genuine smile, respectful. Caleb nodded back. Then he rode away with his kids, heading home. That evening, there was a knock on the apartment door. Caleb opened it to find Natalie standing there, looking nervous. Hi. I hope it's okay that I came by. I wanted to see if your bike was working. It's working great. Thanks. Good. That's good. She shifted her weight. Could I talk to your kids? Just for a minute? Caleb looked back at Isaiah and Maya, who were watching from the couch. You two okay with that? Isaiah shrugged. Maya nodded. Come in, Caleb said. Natalie stepped inside. The apartment suddenly felt smaller with her in it, too aware of the second-hand furniture, the peeling paint, all the things that marked them as different from her world. But Natalie didn't seem to notice any of that. She walked over to the couch and sat down carefully on the edge. Hi, she said to the kids. I'm Natalie. I know who you are, Isaiah said. His voice wasn't rude, just flat, guarded. Yeah, I figured. Natalie took a breath. I wanted to apologize to you, both of you. Last week, outside the school, I laughed at your dad's motorcycle. That was wrong, really wrong, and I'm sorry. Maya tilted her head. Why did you laugh? Because I was being stupid. I judged something I didn't understand. And I hurt your dad. And I hurt you. You did hurt us, Isaiah said quietly. You made me feel embarrassed. I know. And I'm sorry for that. Your dad is a good man. A really good man. And that motorcycle? It's not something to laugh at. It's proof that your dad shows up for you every single day, that he works hard and takes care of you. That's not embarrassing. That's amazing. Isaiah's expression softened just a little. You really mean that? I really do. I wish I'd seen it from the start, but I'm seeing it now. Maya scooted closer to Natalie. Are you and my dad friends now? Natalie looked at Caleb, who was standing by the door. I hope so. If he'll let me be. Caleb felt something shift in his chest. This woman had hurt him, had made his son cry, had forced him to confront every insecurity he'd ever had about being poor and struggling and not enough. But she'd also shown up, had apologized, really apologized. Not just with words, but with actions, had sat down with his kids and been honest with them. We'll see, Caleb said. But it's a start. Natalie smiled. A start is good. She stayed for another 10 minutes, asking the kids about school, listening to Maya's story about butterflies, letting Isaiah warm up to her slowly. When she finally stood to leave, she looked at Caleb. Thank you for giving me a chance to make this right. Thank you for actually trying. At the door, she paused. I'm in town for another week. If you or the kids ever want to grab coffee or something, let me know. We'll think about it. That's all I can ask. She left. Caleb closed the door and turned to find both his kids staring at him. Dad? Maya said. I think she's nice now. Yeah, baby. I think she might be. Isaiah was quiet. Then he said, She really meant it. The apology. Yeah, she did. So what happens now? Now? Caleb walked over and sat between his kids on the couch. Now we keep living our life. I go back to work tomorrow. You two go to school. And we stop worrying about what other people think of us. But what if they laugh again? Then they laugh. And we hold our heads high anyway, because we know the truth, that we're not defined by what we have. We're defined by who we are. Maya leaned against Caleb's shoulder. I like who we are. Me too, baby girl, me too. Isaiah was quiet for a moment longer. Then he said, Dad, I'm sorry I said I hated being poor. Caleb pulled his son close. You have nothing to apologize for. It's hard being poor. I hate it too sometimes. But you know what I don't hate? This. Us. Our family. That's worth more than any car or house or anything else. Even a new motorcycle? Caleb laughed. Even a new motorcycle. They sat there together, the three of them, in their small apartment with their second-hand furniture and their old motorcycle outside. And for the first time in days, Caleb felt at peace. Not because everything was fixed, but because they'd gotten through it. Together. 3 days later, Caleb went back to work. His first delivery of the day was downtown, and when he pulled up to the building, he saw Natalie waiting outside. Hey, she said, I thought you might come by. Just making deliveries. I know, but I wanted to give you this. She handed him an envelope. What is it? Payment information for when you're ready to start paying me back. Bank account, whatever you need. Caleb took the envelope. I'll start making payments next month. Whenever you're ready, no rush. They stood there for a moment. Then Natalie said, Can I tell you something? Sure. You changed my life. Meeting you. Seeing how you handle things. How you love your kids. How you keep going even when everything's hard. Her voice caught. I've been so focused on the wrong things for so long. And you reminded me what actually matters. I didn't do anything special. Yes, you did. You showed me what quiet strength looks like, what dignity looks like, what being a good person actually means. She smiled. So thank you, for being you, for not giving up on me even when I deserved it. Caleb didn't know what to say to that, so he just nodded. Good luck with your deliveries, Natalie said. Thanks. He got back on his bike and rode away. And as he navigated the city streets, the engine humming strong and steady beneath him, Caleb realized something. The bike didn't sound different because it had been fixed. It sounded different because he heard it differently now, not as something to be ashamed of, but as something to be proud of. Proof that he showed up, that he did what needed to be done, that he was exactly who his kids needed him to be. And that was enough. That weekend, Caleb took the kids to the park. They rode there on the motorcycle. Maya singing the whole way, Isaiah quietly content. At the park, they played on the swings and the slide. They had a picnic, sandwiches Caleb had made that morning, juice boxes, and the cookies Mrs. Chen had given them. As they sat on the picnic blanket, watching other families play, Maya said, Daddy, are we happy? What kind of question is that, baby girl? I don't know, I just wondered. Caleb looked at his kids. At Isaiah, who was finally smiling again. At Maya, who believed the world was good. At the life they'd built together out of not much at all. Yeah, he said. Yeah, I think we are. Even though we're poor? We're not poor, baby. We're rich in the things that matter. Like what? Like love. Like family. Like knowing who we are and being proud of it. Isaiah nodded slowly. Dad's right. We are rich. They finished their picnic and played until the sun started setting. Then they rode home together, the three of them on one motorcycle, holding tight to each other. And as Caleb pulled into their neighborhood, past the old buildings and the cracked sidewalks and the chain-link fences, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Pride. Not in what he had, but in who he was, in who they were together. The motorcycle might be old. The apartment might be small. The money might be tight. But they were okay. More than okay. They were family. And that was everything. The end.